Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Ajit, I think few years from now, this session would be in a metaverse. I think that will be the reality of doing this session today. And if that is the area we can actually able to build it, I think that's the true success of any technology to be adapted. That's what I think. And that is what I vision. And you work in a technology giant, and you are a technology giant in terms of it. What do you think? And I think let's, before we get into any particular discussion or debate or topics or putting any jargons to it, how do you define metaverse? Because I have seen a lot of definitions and a lot of things. I'm just finishing a book by Matthew Ball, which is The Metaverse, and I would suggest everybody in the room definitely go and try and lay your hands on that. That's a fantastic book. It actually covers everything, length and breadth, about metaverse, what would be future, how seamlessly things are moving, and how it actually change every industry to look for it. Just to start it, and I think because if you go to Google, and I just a basic estimation, and took the help of a lot of friends and how to find out how many definition of metaverse today exist in the entire universe and entire Google platform. It is more than 865 plus definitions. So what do you think? And I think it will be very good to have with an eminent personality like you to define first what exactly is metaverse, and then we can take the discussion from there. And I think that is most important to look for.
Metaverse, blockchain technology, but when you ask, what do you mean by that? Very, very few people actually can explain. So, universe is something which is physical. We can touch and feel. Metaverse is the same thing, but it's all virtual. It's a convergence of AR and VR. Like I remember I saw a movie Matrix. And when I saw Matrix, it was something that was a sci-fi movie which can never happen. But metaverse has actually made it happen. So what we watched in movies a couple of years back is actually a reality today. So that is a big thing. Obviously it works on blockchain reality, blockchain technology, and the youth today, the Gen Z, the millennials, they are adapting to this technology. They have their own avatars, and they are the virtual avatars. Like what we say, Web 1.0 was the website. It was mostly monologue. There was a computer screen, and we were typing certain things, and we wanted to get information. Web 2.0, it is the generation that we are in today. Mostly, maybe metaverse is very, very small today. It is mostly what we do with a Facebook, Google. It is dialogue, but it is extremely controlled. But till Web 2.0, the platform is the hero. Actually, the
Absolutely.
hero is not the user.
Absolutely.
But metaverse is where user is the hero. Everything is basis the user. Platform will just give user the experience. And it can be anything. You want to buy a land, you want to do interior designing, you want to do gaming. It's very, very diverse, very deep, and the youth are using it a lot nowadays.
No, I think very brilliantly explained, Ritin. I can actually correlate the point of that about the space that you buy. So my 17-year-old son came one afternoon. It was an off for him from school. He said there is an entire music show happened on Metaverse, and I was awake till almost, because it was happening in US. So I was awake till 3:30, 4 in the morning just to have it. And that was the first Metaverse show that happened. Coming to the point which you actually highlighted, and if I really want to see, the definition is actually changing the dimension of what marketing 4Ps is. And what you rightly pointed out is that all 4Ps, which used to be the traditional 4Ps, is actually replacing by people, platform, proposition, and in terms of place. That's exactly how the entire marketing is changing, and it will change in the entire dimension. And looking to your particular background, Archit, and you can actually bring a lot of value to it. How do you think this investment in metaverse, and what would be the investment going forward? Because from your experience, you look from a different tangent, not only from a marketing angle. Because if there is sustainable investment going on, and if not only brands coming, but also there's a demand in the market, there has to be a substantial investment that leads. So what do you think going forward? It is just a fad, or it is just, as marketers are always blamed that it's a new jargon to put it, and you very nicely and very softly made that point. But do you think that that can actually be an investment, that can be a very serious investment to look for?
See, metaverse is the future. There is no questions that metaverse will not grow. But metaverse is a platform, and for that platform, you need to have your basics right. Metaverse is something like we are a brand TECNO, where we are very strong in tier 2, tier 3 and the hinterlands. Metaverse is a place where you can connect all kinds of consumers, be a rural consumer, a semi-urban consumer, a urban consumer, or somebody staying in New York. You can connect all of them together, be through a gaming platform or anywhere. So investment will be there. But before investment, still we have connectivity issues in terms of 4G. 4G is still not seamless. We are saying that today only I read that Airtel has said that by 2024 end, maybe they plan to roll out a complete 5G across the country. So to get a experience, a complete 3D AR plus VR experience, you need that kind of network capability. So all these things put together, investment will be there. Like 2020 vis-a-vis 2019, Metaverse has grown by some 3.3%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 2019 it was around 2.6. So it's growing, but the numbers are very small. But since India is a very young country, almost 65% of India is less than 30 years of age. More than 40% consumption is happening in less than tier 3 and below markets. So there is a huge potential. We are hearing that there is a recession coming in many parts of the world. India till now is much better, in a much better. So investment will be there. We are also planning that. See, earlier it was more about, not so much was on digital, social, PR. Now that has happened. Now a big percentage of our investment will move to metaverse, but that percentage will not be, I don't think should be more than 10 to 15% in the current scenario.
True.
But yeah, with changing times, it will move very fast.
No, I agree with you, Ajay, because if I see today, what exactly today is a grab bag. You have software, you have hardware, you have unexpected, unrelated experiences, but I have not seen any particular tissue which actually connects everything totality. That this is a final proof print of metaverse. Some are using Web 3.0 as a metaverse tool, some are using it no AR and VR. And the worst part of that, the entire particular connotation is actually getting wrong. Only doing one part of AR and we are saying this is what the metaverse is. And I think that is how it actually brings in a much more thing. And if you see, and you can actually correlate between what is happening today is the way your e-commerce business is moving, and the way the entire adaptation of, or rather adaptation of digital is happening today. How do you think that today with digital adaptation, Web 3.0 coming, and obviously e-commerce will be a big bet when it comes to metaverse, will it actually change the landscape today, or it will actually run parallel between the current Web 2.0, 3.0 or metaverse? Because that will be a huge shift, and that will also be in terms of huge adaptation if you actually talk about, or adaptability when it happen, doesn't happen. How do you think that can actually work?
See here, the shift will be gradual, but I don't think the movement from Web 2.0 to 3.0 will take so much of time. Like even if you see today, we have something called TIA, which is a TECNO virtual, what we say, a virtual, what I call that, a lady who does the entire, gives the entire experience to,
It's a virtual experience.
it's a virtual,
Virtual
experience,
experience,
yeah.
yeah.
So we call it TIA, so wherein they give the complete virtual experience to the consumers of our handsets. We are also doing a lot of e-games now, because the youth is using a lot of into e-games, and because of that, we are into a lot of sponsorship, and we are investing a lot on e-games. data, as you said, with the metaverse coming in, there is a huge data that is available.
True.
And very rightly said that the way Amazon and other people are using that data. And we also saw some of the optical companies are using metaverse and you can order your spectacles from home. So all these things are happening, but what percentage of consumers currently using it is something that we need to see. So it will take time, but I think by end of 23, 24, it will pick up very fast.
No, I think one of the reports which I read, and I was in US a few weeks back, and I actually read a report which actually talks about that 70% of the Gen Z or audiences in US want to have their digital profile, digital imagery as a different imagery altogether in the entire totality. So definitely there is a movement, and the needle is absolutely moving. In the same report, it mentioned about 2 trillion people it would be the business by 2030, and 2.6 would be the trillion business would be for all the e-com players to build. I think there's no doubt in terms of huge scope that need to look. The larger pieces, and that's also a confusion, or I would say a doubt in my particular mind, which actually builds is, do we really need to have a digital profile most important, or you have to have your own particular profile, which is your actual profile versus virtual profile? Because if you see today, everybody wants, and if you talk about any Gen Z, Gen X, whatever people you talk about, say, no, it's more important than my actual imagery to look for. And that brings a lot of importance, because that itself will add a lot of audience to the entire platform. Do you really think, Ajit, that is something which will bother to markets like India also?
I think there will be a big change. Actually, even if you see Facebook, they have renamed themselves Meta. So it is not that they own Meta, but Facebook has a huge number of followers, and they're moving to Meta. And now now the ecosystem, the youth today is more virtual than actually real. So they want more of their virtual imagery and their heroes. So all these things will be very different, and the youth and the Gen Z and the millennials that you're talking about, I think they will be moving to the virtual world with Metaverse getting in. I heard somewhere that a marriage in Kerala is happening through a completely virtual environment.
You're absolutely right. That's how it is. So I think if you before I actually open at some last few questions, will it complement the virtual in the actual world, or will it compete? How do you think? Because in my mind, I think it should complement rather than compete. And the reason is because end of the day, the profile remains the same. Whether it is for me or if it's for you, Ajit, or it's anyone, the profile remains the same. So why it should actually compete? It should complement between the two, because end of the day, it's a larger base that I'm actually able to showcase most of the people. Also, I think one point which you started in your initial opening remarks to talk about, that a lot of agencies today, marketing agencies, advertising agencies, comes in about this is blockchain, this is AI, this is ML, IoT, anything that you talk about. And marketing, obviously, everybody knows is the most low-hanging fruit today. To find out any proof point that you do, you can actually show it in 4 weeks and say this is what the outcome to look for. Do you think it will actually change the way product looks like? Because that's how the marketing. Do you also think that products will have a larger impact today? Because that's where the marketing first will start. Because if your product speaks about it, then it will be easy for you.
Yeah, I think there will be a huge impact, and going forward, the product launches, all these things will be through the metaverse ecosystem. Because currently, if I talk about our organization, we do a lot of product launches across the country. We call the KOLs, and we have different PR media meets. Like recently, we are having a XOS software, which is one of our softwares which we are launching. We are doing the entire end-to-end thing through Metaverse, right? Through getting your pass, entering the waiting area, the photograph area, the launch, the after-launch booth, all of these things. So slowly, this entire, mostly, and people, like I have stayed in Noida. To attend this meet, I had to travel 1.5 hours. I have to go back another 3 hours. So will people really have 3.5 hours to travel to attend a 1 hour or a 2 hour program. People will not have that time. Even if they have the time, they will not have the patience. So all the entire metaverse ecosystem, they would want the same experience, sitting in a hall, the same feel. But yeah, for that, maybe our infrastructure needs to get corrected. Investment we already have. I don't think
I
that
think
should
I
be an
think
issue.
you actually brought our point where we actually started, which I say in my opening statement, which I say it would be we'll meet next time. It will be in a metaverse situation, and you actually close it in a very nice way. That why should we travel for 3.5 hours? We can actually do it on metaverse. I think that's a brilliant point that you actually shared. I think if you think we should open it for questions for audience, because I think a lot of people with this particular topic and with your experience, I think it will be very great for people, our audience, to have questions to look for. So open to audience for questions. Look forward for the questions, please.
Hello, sir. I am Jitendra. I am a marketing student from IMT Ghaziabad. So, sir, what we are offering to customers is an immersive experience. So, as a marketer, what my concern is, uh, how do we keep them immersed? Because it's like a new thrilling experience for them. But how do I keep them, last it longer for them? Because I can bring them, but keeping them would be a big challenge as a marketer for me.
So thanks for the question. See, more than bringing it, I think what is the seamless experience you're giving to that particular customer? That's most important. The customer will stick, and customer will have an habit of what you're actually trying to offer if you're able to have a seamless experience. And I and Ajit were just exchanging some notes before, and think everything is fine. The technology will come. There would be a lot of infrastructure will be there. There would be new ways to actually put that infrastructure. The larger thing is, were you able to support and get what the customer want? It is, as Ajit was rightly mentioning about, it is not a monologue talking from one thing. In today's world, it is a dialogue. It's a multiple dialogue. If you're able to keep that particular customer in control, and you're able to keep that customer happy at the end of the day with seamless experience, I think you don't have to do an effort in terms of keeping him. The only thing is just give him what he actually wants seamlessly.
Listening for last couple of hours, very interesting insights coming our way. My question is, of course, I completely agree. This is, from a marketing lens point of view, but a question is little, going beyond marketing. And I mean, I read it like this: as marketers or as business people, we really want to understand this thing. That let's say, I mean, to an approximate, let's say, $100 trillion. That's world GDP. That is the size we are talking of. And then for the last 100 or perhaps 200 years, it's been the food, the energy. Off late, I mean, let's go 50 years before retail got into. So what I'm trying to really understand, and what every business person wants to understand, is that how big this is going to be, because food and energy, I mean, these are definitely consuming 80% of the world GDP. So, what is the scale we are talking of, and what timeline we are talking of? So, I mean, will it remain onto the retail consumer goods only? I mean, of course, we make awareness through small things, duplicate things, and then go in that direction. So I wanted to know this: what is the timeline that you foresee, and what is the scale that you foresee? Let's say in terms of value. Anybody, and question to anybody actually.
See, the scale will be very big. The scale will be huge, and like I spoke about Matrix, what we see in movies today, I will also give you one more example. I watch a lot of movies actually. If you have seen Kamal Hassan's Robot, that is completely what Metaverse is. And Metaverse is not marketing in only one field. It is across. You want to buy a flat, you have to go to the site. You will see a sample flat. At times, sample flats are not ready. Now, sitting in the comfortable corner, you will see the entire house. You will see everything. So, in each and every segment, in medicine, maybe the operation which has to happen, the patient can see the entire operation, how will it happen, which part, the entire process can be seen So all these things, different fields, different experts are working on. And it is something that is going to happen with you, or you would like to go somewhere, you want to wear a shirt, which color with which trouser, very simple, these things are already there. What is the amount of, what is the valuation? When the adoption started, it is so big, you really don't know. If you go 10 years back, nobody could even guess that mobile industry in India would have been so big. We wake up, first thing we do, we watch a mobile. What is the message? When we go to sleep, the last thing we see is a mobile phone. The last 2 years of pandemic, it is a mobile 6-inch device that saved so many people because their mind was in that device. So now you have a mobile phone. That mobile phone will have a 5G connectivity. So across it is or kya? What else? And millennials and Gen Z is all about what next? Because their excitement is over in 2 seconds, 3 seconds. You can't keep, I have a daughter, 18-year-old. I speak to her for 5 minutes, she listens for 2 minutes. Next 3 minutes, I know she's there, but she's not there. So expectations are very high. Now, how we fulfill that expectation, what is the kind of budget, how is the country performing, what is the company, which sector, which investment. So all these things are, with a 3% industry, you can't guess on numbers because the industry is only 3%. But the 3% will take some time to become a 7 to 8, 9%. But that 9% to 35% will not take so much time. That is what I can say.
I think just to add on, I think very brilliant point which Ajit brings. Just to add on what it said is, if you talk about actual numbers on the timelines, 5 to 7 years is something which will actually change a lot of landscape, because that is happening, and I can really see in most of the matured markets today, it is happening. Now coming to what all will it be only to retail, it will be only to fashion, it will be only to media? No, I think today as we speak, 29 sectors are already doing something or the else in terms of an experiment to do with metaverse, and some would be successful, some would not be successful. The point which I'm actually trying to draw is that there won't be any particular industry would not be explored. Whether it will be successful, very tough today, because we don't know, because there are a lot of things which are actually depending upon. But is it a revolutionary change? Yes, it will be. And it will impact, yes, as Ajit said, 3% can actually become 9%, but 9% can also become 39%, which will not take in that particular magnitude. So it will actually make a huge impact and huge dent the way we actually look from today.
My name is Saubhagya Tripathi and head the technology department of Bluent Technologies. My question is the quantum computing is advancing day by day. Okay, and so what will be the effect on the metaverse as the quantum computing is coming out in the real world? So what do you think?
If you actually see today, quantum computing is actually taking a lot of steps in terms of before it actually gets. And fortunately, unfortunately, this is the discussion we had before, because the way it was actually initially thought of before COVID that 2026 we'll have a full-fledged proof model to actually run on quantum computing to look for. Then again, it was said no, because of the urgency and the need and the requirement, it comes to 2023. It's very early stages. The only thing is you need to see and find similarities, how does it actually draw between the two platforms and how you actually draw. It will be very difficult to have standalone platform working, because end of the day, it is very, very tough for any particular consumer to have parallel working on the same thing. It will have a lot of overlap. They'll have a lot of overlap that will complement most of the things on the metaverse platform, because you'll have a lot of improvement in the way you operate the technology in the quantum computing to look for. Very early days to make any predictions to say that whether it will actually be able to do, whether it will actually change it, but it will actually supplement and complement the way it has to look for.
So if we just remove the users, number of users like the company is having, so according to you, which company is more advanced in this metaverse? Is it NVIDIA or is it Facebook?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I'm saying that if we just remove the user part, okay, we just keep it aside. In terms of metaverse, which company is much more advanced? Is it NVIDIA, which is going more towards the graphical inputs and making the metaverse more real? You can just transport your physical self in the metaverse, or is it the Facebook, which can say that it entered the race really early as compared to their competitors and all?
See, I think First of all, both of them are not something that can actually compete in a big way, because everybody today and anybody who can actually drive much more better things on a metaverse will be number. It's not about numbers. It's about what's the offering that you're able to bring on a metaverse platform. Facebook changed the name. It's not about that they want to acquire anybody, and I think that will be the future that will decide. Any particular organization, any particular company or a brand will not be the only thing that can actually derive or actually can devise metaverse on their own in terms of the way they want to look for. It's not about big or small, who is going more, who is not, who is actually getting real solution to the customer or actually changing the need of the customer. I think that will be the winner. And it can be many. It cannot be only one or two, it can be hundreds, depending upon in what sector, what category and what genre you're actually trying to do that particular change.
As a Mayank Chaudhary here from Blue Nine Technologies. So my question was that we see the metaverse sphere thriving in well, gaming, entertainment, events, these sort of industries right now. But in a country like India, where we are pushing for a Make in India movement, we are going for Industry 4.0, where does metaverse, apart from these marketing things, lie for traditional businesses or industrial units in the future?
India is moving extremely, extremely well. In fact, I was in Pune addressing some students 3 days back. And what I told them was that 5 years from now, the India you are going to see will be a very different India. I am into technology industry. 5 years before, we used to import almost 95% of handsets from China. Now, we are manufacturing 100% handsets in India. So similarly, the adoption in India will be extremely high. The per capita consumption income is moving very well. And India is a country which is, I will give you one more example, 5G. We have not yet launched 5G, but India is among the top 3 countries in 5G. And by the end of this year, 50% of the handsets that are sold will be 5G. So almost a 175, 178 million handsets, 50% of that will be 5G. So that is how fast adoption happens in India. So similarly, Metaverse, when it comes, the adoption will be very, very fast because 60% are youth and we are a growing economy.
On that point, sir, just to follow up, basically, I wanted to know what direction do you see metaverse being applied in these traditional businesses rather than the adoption rate? Because we are a country of intuitive people, so we do come up with many different ideas. So I cannot myself imagine right now in what ways traditional businesses will be affected by metaverse, but I would like to know your point, like a certain sort of industries, let's say pharmaceuticals or anything, how they might be able to use metaverse to their advantages.
There will be many ways in that can actually use it, and I think we should not do this bifurcation in terms of whether it would be a traditional business or not. And I just mentioned to the answer which I was giving, it all depends upon what is the consumer decision journey that you're trying to solve for any particular customer or consumer, whether it is in terms of any particular space that you want to do it. It can help, and you may find it tomorrow. Let's say in a lot of garment manufacturing, which is mostly in your traditional business. Tomorrow you don't have to physically go, and why can't you create a platform which is only your particular platform sharing what you want to do? So I think again coming to the point, or just to summing this point, is it is not about in terms of who will do it, whether it will happen to a pharma company or not. What are we actually trying to solve for it? It is not about that. And in early, when the digital thing, and Ajit can actually supplement on that, is when the digital adoption happening, everybody wants to make one particular slide for the boardroom that we also have Facebook and we have 10,000 impressions every day it comes. It is not about in terms of, it's about how a consumer sees, will he find an option that if metaverse would happen, this is the problem that can be solved. So it is other way around, rather than companies trying to solve a problem, it is a consumer who is trying and wanting that solution to happen for that.
See, as a handset company, especially smartphone, we have been supporting the gaming platforms a lot, and we have been sponsoring a lot of such platforms. But yeah, we also have to be very careful on, and this gaming platform, the biggest thing is we have consumers all across. But we have to be very careful on all the compliance, statutory compliance and other things. At times what happens when certain things are a global, are controlled globally, maybe many things that are required in India are not followed the way it has to be followed. So we are not a country anymore wherein everything and anything is allowed. So we welcome everything, but then there has to be certain rules and regulations that we need to follow, because at the end of the day, it is the youth who is using it, and they are all in our houses. So we need to be very careful.